Time for a very overdue coral update on this system. Hello everyone, ReeferGil here. The time has come to finally put out an overdue coral update video to show you guys where my system currently is at. Version 2 of this build finished its cycle back in October. Since then, I've added fish and coral. Before we get started, I just want to let you guys know I am on Instagram and I post almost every single day. So if you want to keep up with real-time updates on the system, give me a follow on Instagram. The link to that is down below in the description. And since this is an update video, I wanted to update you on the newest member of the family. This is Trigger. He's a full-bred German Shepherd, all black. We got him when he was 7 weeks old. He is now almost 6 months old. He's grown so much. He's an absolute blast to have around the house and gets along great with his 2 older brothers. Knowing I absolutely suck at remembering the names of the corals, my wife actually came up with a brilliant idea of blowing up the pictures of the tank. Using these round stickers, I wrote down the names of the corals and placed the stickers on the picture to reference that particular coral's location in the tank. So now when I do these updates, I can actually give you the names of the corals. Now, although it's technically not a coral, the first purchase I made was this rose bubble tip anemone. I purchased this guy from my local fish store. When I originally purchased it, it was pretty small. I did struggle with the decision to even have one in my system at all. Contained, they're an awesome addition to a reef tank, especially if you have clownfish to host it. But when they grow too big, start splitting, or decide to go on a walk, they become a nightmare. They'll start stinging any corals that are too close, and over time, the anemone will kill its neighbors. I was fortunate to have this particular anemone stay put in the location where I had originally set it down. They like medium flow areas and like to stretch out their trunks, so creating your rock work to accommodate the anemone is important if you want to reduce the likelihood of it taking a walk. The next coral came out of my original 75-gallon system. This coral was kept at my local fish store during the transition between the 75-gallon and this 100-gallon system. This is a Duncan coral, which has already grown out several more heads since I've had it. These are considered the canaries of the saltwater tank because it is often the first coral to respond to adverse water conditions. I know if I ever see this coral closed up, I need to immediately start checking for any issues with my water parameters. The majority of the rest of the SPS corals were purchased from Budman's Corals on Instagram. If you haven't checked out his inventory, then Google him or just check out the link down below in the description and check out the fire that this guy has on his website. After visiting his website, I went a little crazy with my first order. I think I ordered like 12 frags from him. If you take the time to visit his website, you'll see what I'm talking about. I literally wanted to buy every frag this guy was selling. After doing a drip acclimation, I placed the corals onto this frag rack. When they came, the colors on the frags were gorgeous. All the corals had a unique color to them. Most of them look like pastel colors. The bigger these corals grow, the more vivid their colors will become. Now, some of the frags will completely change their colors to colors that are unrecognizable to the colors they are here. You can see that there are a couple of frags glued onto the rockwork in the background, which I used as tester corals. Tester corals in that I used them to see that the aquarium water was ready for the more expensive corals. After a few weeks, I removed the frags from the rack and glued them down on the rockwork. I had taken par measurements using my Senai par sensor and mapped out the par levels in the tank. Naturally, the closer to the radions the frags were, the higher the par readings would be. My readings were between 350 at the highest to 100 par at the lowest. For a period of several months, almost all of my SPS corals browned out. Corals that brown out is typically as a result of poor lighting or undesirable nutrient levels in the aquarium. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but you do need to try to figure out the issue. I figured these corals were not used to the radion lights and were protesting by browning out, so I decided to let things be since I knew that the par levels were where I wanted them to be. After a few more months, almost all the corals started to slowly regain their colors. So starting from the left side of the tank, I'll go over the corals that I have today, and I'll also try to get you guys some top to bottom views of the corals. This is a TriStar granulosa coral, which I purchased from a local fish store. It looks like it's bleached out and dead, but it's not. For whatever reason, this coral is just pale with some blue tips. Hopefully it'll bounce back. Next, we have this WWC slime ball. Not surprising, but it's probably the fastest growing coral I have. Unlike its tank mates, this guy never browned out. Its bright colors never changed since being placed in the tank. Under blue lights, the tips on this guy are purple. This is a forest fire digi. It's a mix of orange and green colors. The colors really pop and draw your attention to it, especially under the blues. Here we have a Jason Fox flame. This frag is slow growing, and at this stage, I can't really say anything exciting about it. It has a brown trunk with greenish tips. I'm thinking about moving this guy a little closer to the front of the tank. Down there at the bottom back of the tank, we have the original frag, my pearlberry, which I got from my original system. This coral was huge in my 75-gallon system, as you're seeing here. After I broke down the 75-gallon tank, my local fish store was kind enough to hold on to this frag for me while the rest of the coral was sold. This frag browned out, then it bleached out, but as you can see now, it is coloring up and is even displaying some blue tips. And this here is a dead coral. This is what a coral that is no longer living looks like. It used to be a Blutenius Aussie. It was growing and coloring up just fine. All of a sudden it turned brown, and over the course of 2 or 3 days, it just died. This is what it looked like just a few weeks ago. I left it in the tank hoping to get a glimpse of some sort of life, maybe a polyp here or two, but after this video, I'm going to go ahead and pull it out of the tank. Here we have a WWC Death Widow. Maybe the one that's responsible for killing the last coral we just looked at? I don't know. Well, this guy's actually very cool. It's a sort of translucent, icy bluish, greenish trunk with hints of purple in it. It's a slow growing coral, but one that I'm actually excited to see grow out. And behind it, we have an RRU Prometheus SPS. I'm not quite sure what's going on with him. Like that tricolor we looked at earlier, this coral is also just pale white. Despite its color, it's definitely growing. It's encrusting onto the rock below. It's even encrusting over a dead snail that was nearby. I guess we'll see what ends up happening with this coral. To its right, we have the purple-tipped Taraki. This started off as a green stump of a frag. As you can see now, it's starting to grow out some branches at the bottom and even changing some colors. The trunk is a really cool green with blue tips. Another coral that is absolutely thriving in this tank. This colorful guy is a PC rainbow. He too started off as a single trunk, but as you can see, he's starting to grow a whole bunch of branches. When the blues come on, you can really see some of the hidden cool colors this coral has, and it shows off with some reds, some bright greens with purple tips. Here we have what I consider to be pretty boring as a coral. This is a Battle Coral's Wild Red. It's encrusted itself onto the rock below it, and it's even encrusting onto the rock to the right of the coral. And it is starting to show some other colors, but right now it's pretty much a dull looking brown coral. Now this frag is one that I'm probably most excited about. It's a very slow grower, but once it matures, it's going to blast the tank with some truly vivid colors. This is a Walt Disney frag. Also one of the frags that never browned out during the brownout period of the rest of the tank. It's been this green color the entire time, but under the blue lights, I'm starting to see some bluish purple tips. I'm betting this is going to become one of my showpieces in the tank. Above it, unfortunately, I have a dead Poto side chick. It came in as a tiny frag and unfortunately didn't make it. It too will be coming out of the tank after this video. This guy here is a Budman's Granddaddy Purple. A slow grower, but lives up to its name. The entire coral is a dark purple color, which is hard to pick up on this camera. Not too many corals don just purple, so this guy should be a nice addition to what will be a colorful reef tank. And right below we have Joe the Coral, a very simple name for a very cool coral. This coral has been growing pretty fast. It's mostly blue with subtle hints of purple tips. I'm hoping the subtleness of the purple tips will become more obvious once this coral grows out. Its neighbor is the WWC Heartbreaker, another pretty much boring coral. It's pretty much just pink with white tips right now. Another one, we'll just have to wait and see what it looks like once it grows out. And this frag was sold to me as an ORA Blue Voodoo. There's nothing really blue about this frag so far. And let's just hope that it doesn't live up to its last part of its name. It's just been this kind of a cool green color. Well, I guess if you really look at it closely, the green might be changing over to blue, but we shall see. Here we have an RRC Pink Cadillac. This guy was pretty boring for a very long time, but it's now starting to show some hints of green, especially down by its base. As far as growth goes, it's one of the slow growing corals that I have. Now I made a promise to myself when I started this new build to never buy mushrooms or other types of invasive corals again. The mushrooms in my last system just overtook the entire tank. I hated it. You can see how these burgundy mushrooms just grew everywhere in my previous system. Well, my buddy was breaking down his tank and offered this jawbreaker to me for free. These things can go for as much as $250 per head. So yeah, I took it off his hands. And it's only been in the tank for about 3 months and already there are 2 baby jawbreakers growing underneath it. Besides the price, these things do have some stunning colors. The Tierra de Fuego, another frag from my original system which made it into this build. You can see from the original system the colors on this thing are amazing. This frag is doing great in the display and it's showing off its greens and burgundy coloration. I'm not quite sure what this last SPS coral's name is. I think it might be a Canada Aussie Gold, but if you know what it is, please leave a comment down below. This guy started off as a tester coral, which I ended up just keeping. The bigger this thing gets, the more colors it's showing off. It's burgundy with hints of purple, greens, and blues. Now for what will likely become my most favorite part of the tank, the soon-to-be Zoanthid garden. Zoanthids come in all kinds of colors and sizes. The crazy colors is what draws us to them. Additionally, they're easy to keep. I ordered these zoas during a sale on Worldwide Coral's website. Unfortunately, 2 of the zoa frags died. One opened up and was doing great, but all of a sudden just kind of melted away, while the first one just kind of died right off the bat. I decided not to keep the Himalayan pink zoas. They were too big and looked like they were large pallies. I've had a bad experience with large pallies overtaking my previous system, so they ended up going to my local fish store for credit. These zoas are the WWC AOI zoas. Super cool blue with yellow centers, and since I've had them, there's definitely been more heads growing out. These are Solomon Grudy zoas. They arrived with numerous heads on the frag plug. They're yellow, green with burgundy and yellow tentacles. Here we have the Illuminati zoas. I don't know where these zoas get their names from, but whatever. Super cool pinkish orange with blue centers. The colors on this one definitely are eye-catching. The Bob Marleys have a lime green, yellow, purple, and blue center. These zoanthids are absolutely stunning and will make for a great addition. Next we have the Superstar Zoanthid. I purchased just one head for $150, and now you can see that there are several heads starting to grow off the original Zoanthid. The Superstar is quite a bit larger than the other Zoanthids. It boasts pink, purple, blue, and black coloration with a kind of a psychedelic color pattern. And this zoa here I actually purchased from my local fish store. This is a yellow hornet. Another really cool zoa with blue and yellow centers and yellow tentacles. The last zoas are Tubbs Blue and probably my favorite zoas. It's one of the first zoas I started off with when I started this hobby. It took me forever to find one. I finally found it at Vivid Aquariums and jumped on it. The entire body is blue with the exception of a burgundy rim. Lastly is this Fungia plate gifted to me by the same friend who broke down his system, and it has a unique shape to it, but it's pretty boring in colors. It does have long tentacles that sweep the water for food, and it does have a little bit of yellow around its mouth. I'm not quite sure this thing's going to stay in the tank. Other than that, I am really looking forward to these corals growing out and just to see what kind of colors these things are going to put out. I am going to buy maybe 2 or 3 more high-end corals and put them in the tank as well. And that'll do it for this video. Stay tuned for more future videos. If you are new to this channel, please hit that subscription button. Guys, don't forget to hit that like button. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram where I post almost daily updates. The link to that is down below in the description. And we will see you guys at the next one. Thanks for watching.